So yeah, once again, welcome. I've been feeling quite a few webinars brewing in the cauldron, shall we say, lately, and they might be starting to pop up a little bit more often. But this was the one that felt like it was the hottest topic, the burning topic right now, the fire of the heart and embodying more love for ourselves and on this planet right now. And how Mama Cacao especially can help us with that. And certainly I may share a little bit about how she has helped me with that along the way as well. In a time where, gosh, there's so much discord, there's so much incoherence, confusion, opinion, views. If I put it bluntly, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of that. A lot of noise. There's not a lot of communication coming from silence, coming from love. And that's where I feel like we need more voices of truth, voices from Mother Earth, voices of love. And some of you that are aware of my work know that there's a lot of what I share, I feel is sacred activism in connecting to our own essence, our soul's calling, rather than what we think we should or shouldn't be doing, or how we should or shouldn't be, and all of that, and radical rest and self-care in a time that likes us to rush off and forget about ourselves and get involved in the human doing rather than the human being. And so I have found one surefire way that has brought me into more coherence, more alignment, more radical care, self-love. And it's an ongoing human journey, eh? Nobody's like got that box ticked. It's an ongoing dedication in everyday life and in every moment. So I mentioned, if you got my email, I mentioned about this, that there's a lot of talk. Oh, you just need to love yourself more, you know, and all this self-care and talk about it. And it's lovely. It's great. We need to speak of it, but we also, more importantly, need to live it. And not just when we're attending a ceremony or a retreat or just in our yoga practice, although those things are wonderful as well. That how can we bring that into every day, into every moment? That's the living and the breathing of it. And the living and the breathing of it in a time where, like I said, there's so much discord and there's a lot of conflict as well. And in certain environments, excuse me, including family, including those areas where we feel, I like to say the word more activated or charged. I don't like to use the word trigger because, quite frankly, that's an actual trauma response. And when it's used in terms of an emotional charge or feeling quite activated, I feel that's very disempowering language to use. And part of self-love really is about really tuning into the language that we use internally, as well as what we're using with others as well, and really trying to reframe a lot. And what I'm getting is tidying up the weeds, like taking care of our own garden, by taking out the weeds of what perpetuates, shall we say, any self-criticism, self-sabotage, judgment, any hardness on ourselves. When we're hard on ourselves, we are inevitably hard on others as well. And so that, for me, the embodying a lot more love on this planet really is starting with ourselves and how that radiates out. And we may need to find containers, we may need to find ways that we can connect easier with that initially. So for me, for instance, I know that as for many, I find it connecting with plants, connecting with animals, connecting with trees, connecting with nature and Mother Earth is so much more direct and so much more intimate than often the communication can be with humans. Not all humans, but a lot of humans that are not quite attuned yet to this real relating and the self-love and self-care for themselves that radiates out with those around them. And before I speak a little bit more about Mama Cacao, and I'd like just to share a little meditation as well today. And when I say little, I'm from Northern Ireland. We say we and little a lot. It doesn't mean it's actually little. It's just a thing that comes in a colloquialism that comes in our language. Is that I grew up in Northern Ireland. So I grew up in a country enmeshed in conflict. And enmeshed in one side against the other. And I cottoned on very quickly, very, very early on in life, that this wasn't right, that I couldn't understand why one would be pitted against the other when they're all human. And that the underbelly of that conflict is still here. I'm back here in Northern Ireland after about 10 years in Scotland and traveling as well. And the emotional, I'm losing the words, it's like, you know, the earthquake has happened and then you get the aftershocks. We're still in the aftershock of all of that. And then added to that is obviously the current events at the moment. And I want to mention that is bringing up a lot of old wounding, a lot of conflict. Like all countries and across the world have suffered from conflict, have suffered from, in various levels, from colonization, have also suffered from, shall I say, the introduction of technology, which can be in some ways amazing, like we're connecting here and now. It can be a really amazing tool, but it also can, in some ways, take out the humanity of our relating. That just because you've seen something on somebody's newsfeed in Facebook doesn't really mean that you're connected to them, does it? But it gives us the illusion of that. And when I see that with the eyes of compassion, what I see is that people are really wishing to connect, ultimately, even if they're going about it in a way that causes a lot of disruption, causes a lot of incoherence, and in some ways causes a lot of hurt as well. That ultimately, that is what they're seeking underneath it all, underneath the patterns and the conditioning or the behavior that may be coming through. And it takes time and it takes dedication of really, really bringing that back home, of seeing those conditions within ourselves, the patterning within ourselves, with the eyes of love, with building that muscle, I would say, that is the compassionate heart. That slowly, 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 we build what I would say is our capacity for love. And that takes time, where it widens and widens and widens and widens to maybe areas that you can think of even just now, where even maybe a few months ago or even a year ago, you may not have been able to be as compassionate towards as you are now, because you've grown, you've developed that capacity for love more, even if it's just for yourself, for an old pattern that's been coming up. Instead of your initial reaction might have visibly like pushing it away, going, is now like, oh, there it is again. Here we are. Okay. And acceptance and moving into that. And whenever I speak of compassion and I speak of love, I mean it in its absolute truest sense. And its absolute truest, highest form is actually pretty fierce. It's fierce as it burns with a fire, and not burns with a fire that's going to hurt another, but it's a fire that comes with a passion, compassion. The word passion is in there, and completeness, the wholeness. And it doesn't mean this like wishy-washy, oh, it's all okay, it's all right, I love you anyway. No, if a line needs to be drawn, a boundary needs to be drawn in a certain situation with someone or something, then there is a time when actually the most compassionate action is to speak and to voice the truth. May not necessarily be comfortable for you or for them, but the outcome is always for the greater. And quite often, and I have had experience of this as well, quite often what comes back after the initial shock, perhaps sometimes, is usually an alchemy has happened, a huge change, a shift has happened. The catalyst has been lit, and the shift happens, and that individual comes back and says, why, thank you, I needed that. And the dynamic changes completely, and there's more openness, there's more honesty, there's more real relating. Instead of going through the old patterns, I'm sure you know of old patterns and loops that you get into, particularly with family or with partners, it's usually the closest, that you find that I'm in this pattern again. We have a choice of whether we continue that or whether we actually stand with that fire of love in our hearts and speak from there, rather than the old wounding, shall we say. And yes, like I say, in the time, what's coming is in this time where there's so much that is not natural. And I'm not going to go into any politics or any medical thingies or any of that just now, because that could be a whole other webinar, couldn't it? Just to say what is normal is not natural. And I feel it's that time where we need to speak up for what is natural. And what is natural may be for our own bodies. It may be for a local area that we know is going to be developed. And we need to speak up for the trees on behalf of them. We need to speak up for the wildlife on behalf of them. And it's important as well, when we do feel the need to speak up for something, even if it is a truth, it needs to be from that place of love. It needs to be speaking from that place of, what am I for? What am I standing for? Not what I'm standing against. Because if we're going into what we're standing against, then we're still going into that duality, and we're ending up basically in a ping pong match again. And that really, in this time, we really don't have time for that anymore. And what else has been coming through as I was just inquiring before this webinar was that it's really about how can we root into ourselves? How can we root into love more? And one of those aspects is, of course, our practice, our personal practice. And I'm very careful not to call that a spiritual practice, because I don't believe in this is spiritual and that is not spiritual. I do really believe that that is another construct, shall we say, that keeps us again in that duality, whereas life in itself is a precious gift. The fact that we are human beings is the fact that we are spiritual. Life is that already, so we don't need to make it something special, shall we say. It already is, and it's how we tend to the sacredness of that makes the difference. So one of those aspects was that in really rooting into our own practice, whether that's for some people that might look like meditation, it might look like asana, it might look like painting or creativity or music or song or poetry. It could look like their daily walk in nature. It could look like some sort of ritual. It could look like ceremony. And some people find it difficult to create that space, to make that space. That is not because anybody is more busy than anybody else. The busyness is just a fact of modern life. However, the antidote for that is to actually create space for what is important. And the more that you create space for what is important out as an act of love, the more the actual presence and love and passion that you bring into what you are actually bringing into action through the day, and your conversations with others as well as with yourself. If you've got that base of foundation, of ground in the beginning of the day, ideally, even if it's only 15 minutes before your baby wakes up, it's something to connect into source. Because I feel that connection to source and divine, God, goddess, insert whatever all that is, insert whatever feels appropriate for you. Everything comes from that. Absolutely everything comes from that. And those that have found that difficult, some of them find that through a container like of the Cacao Alchemy Level 1 can help give them that little boost, shall we say, of confidence, as well as the holding of a container to go, right, I'm actually going to commit during this time. And the extra carrot and the stick, of course, is whenever you have an ally to share with that. So in this sense, the ally is Mama Cacao. And cacao is a very, very ancient medicine that brings us back into the heart. She is a heart opening medicine, also a very grounding medicine, and a medicine that also opens us up to the pure mind. And as well as being a love medicine, she carries many chemicals in her. She calls, now I know that Natalie's here in the call and she's the chemist, so please excuse my pronunciation of the PEA chemical, which is the love molecule, which is phenylethylamine. And the other one is oxytocin. And we've got serotonin that activates more serotonin in the body. And it also activates the anandamide, which is the bliss or the joy chemical in the heart. I get very excited, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent just now, but I get very excited about how the science and the chemical compounds of cacao activate within the body, as well as how she activates the spirit within us as well. And how when we come into reciprocity and real relating with a plant ally, such as cacao, what that really can do to transform our relationship with ourselves and embodying that love for ourselves, and also embodying that love for her and for Mother Earth. By coming into that reciprocity, we come back into the remembering of putting Mother Earth first. So she comes from the Mayan tradition, the Aztec tradition, and the Incan tradition. I predominantly work with the Mayan tradition. That is the one that I find closest to. And I also find a closest affiliation to my own lineage, which is the Celtic and pre-Celtic lineage. There's a lot of linking in with the cosmology, with the Mayan cosmology and the Celtic cosmology. So I find that closest to home for me. But also with the Mayan tradition is that they put Ish, so she's Ish cacao. Ish is mother. Ish comes first. Ish comes before everything. We give to the mother before we give to ourselves, because everything comes from her. And that really also brings us into that connection with abundance as well. That we always have had and always will have everything we need if we remain in reciprocity with Mother Earth. And that's the change that we need to make today in society, is to come back to the natural way of things, come back to aligning with nature's principles once again. And that comes with every single one of us living that and showing that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to go and broadcast this to the world, that this is what we're doing. It could be between you and Mother Earth. And from there, you've no idea how much a ripple effect that has. And even if it's only in those that are closest to you that they start to see that there's something different. And I can tell you now that I come from a family that's very conservative in Northern Ireland. And even just sort of a week ago, my mum said to me, you know, could we do a fire ritual in the garden? I'm like, you know, I was 14 or 15 doing rituals in my own room, hiding, you know, and now tables have turned somewhat. So it's not that I have tried to change anything. It's very, very important. Simply by living it, simply by embodying it, simply by being, making these changes for ourselves out of love for ourselves, out of love for Mother Earth, others start to see. Instead of trying to say that somebody should be doing this or somebody should be doing that and all of that, which is happening a lot out now, isn't it, out there? It's just doing what you know with that we're not taking more than what is given. That is also very important. So a mama cacao also is just a real, like I said, incentive, shall we say, as well, for those that may not have a regular practice, or may somehow think that, or they may be on a mental level haven't quite integrated yet with that ritual, with ceremony, is actually bringing in to the everyday life, that it's no different from everyday life, that every moment is sacred, but it does bring that sense of ritual back. And I was even reflecting on that, even just that we've just had the calendar Samhain. Now we're still waiting for Samhain on the 7th for the official Samhain, or Halloween. as it's been commercialized. And we notice that a lot of these festivals have been commercialized, and they may on the surface not really do, ritual and ceremony and all of that, but there are rituals that are still in place. They still have pumpkins outside their doors. There's all these little things that people do, or even the firework displays and things like that. Now, it might not be in right relation and all of that. Even I was reflecting as well at the very beginning of all of this happening with the thingy, as I like to call it. People were like washing their hands in a certain way for 20 seconds. And there were all these little rituals coming back. And I feel we, as society, lost a lot of the rituals and the ceremonies that we did in reciprocity with nature. And so we're kind of lost and trying to find them in really, really weird ways. And I feel like it is a time for that reclamation of really bringing it back to the essence. And that, again, I told you, there's so many webinars that are sitting waiting to come, and I hope that they come through. But one of them is that ritual and ceremony not that long ago was very much part of agriculture as well. And particularly with the Celtic festivals, but this would have been in the Mayan festivals as well, that they would have been making certain prayers, certain offerings, certain rituals at certain times of the year to ensure that they had good harvest. And that they knew if they didn't do that, they would not have that reciprocity with nature, with Mother Earth, and all sorts of things would happen. There, if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can look up on Netflix. There is a really wonderful documentary called Kiss the Ground, and it's all about regenerative agriculture. And I think the other aspect that comes into it is then remembering about the calendar and coming back to that. And I don't feel like we need to go back and try and figure out how did the Celtic peoples do this particular ritual? How did the Mayans do this particular ritual? It's not actually about that. It's about bringing it into the modern everyday life, but always, always acknowledging the earth wisdom of where it's coming from, the indigenous traditions and where this is coming from. That's very important. It's very important to acknowledge the roots of where it comes from always. So, yeah, I would like to share a little meditation with you. And we'll see what comes just now, just say 10 minutes or so, 15 max. And then after that, we'll share some, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to explore, we can go into that. But I just felt like there can be a lot of chatter, and let's just take some time to go in. So just find yourself in a seated position. Make sure the spine is straight, but not rigid. And tucking the chin slightly in so that the crown is meeting the sky. Take a few breaths to just let any charge out of the nervous system move. And you can do this anytime. Just breathing in through the nose and letting a sigh. Settling into yourself. Welcoming yourself here in this moment. No matter what it is that you may be feeling. Just remember that feelings, emotions come and go. That your presence It's always there behind it all. Just bringing that awareness into the body. And even beginning with connecting with the hands. Feel how the hands are connected to the arms. And softening the shoulders. Softening any sense of holding or tension that you may have in the body. Just letting it go into the earth. Connecting into the heart. Your inner hearth. Also inviting in the warmth and the love of your own heart. The warmth and the love of Mama Cacao, Ish Cacao. We can allow the connection with her to come in. Softening and opening around the heart. And into the belly, into the body, into the being. And rooting down into the earth. Through the pelvis. Through the genitals. Legs, feet. Softening into the soil of the earth. This meeting of soul into soil, body into earth as one. Feel this love carry inside of you for her. How that is reciprocated. Into your body and into your being. You're the child of the earth. Your body came from this earth as part of this earth and will return. And connecting into the land in which you're sitting upon. And connecting into the center of the earth. It's connected with all the lands, including the Mayan. My Mama Cacao is this heart blood of the earth. that we are so honored and privileged that she has come from her native land, the land in which we're sitting upon. Her ancient wisdom that awakens the wisdom within us. The wisdom that we hold within our bodies, within our womb or hara. Allowing us to connect to our hearts, presence, our love. And clearing and purifying the channels so we can act, we can speak. We can live as the love that we are. So we let go of any noise or interference and just drop here simply into this moment, into coherence, the alignment with the mind, the heart. And that the love of our hearts permeates every cell, every part of our being. And allowing any rewiring or recapitulation that needs to happen. Simply allowing with grace and ease. There's no need to work anything out. Just being here and now as you are. Welcome yourself as the love that you are. Here and now on this earth. Allow yourself to move and stretch the body as you need. Allowing this love to reach in to any places that may feel a little bit more rigid or stiff or stuck in any way. melting any tension with this presence, with this love. Maybe I yawn. Sigh, any signing that's needed. It's welcome. Oh. Just in your own time, when it feels right and good for you, you come back to the screen. So, if there are any questions, if you look at the bottom, there's a reactions button, and in there you can raise your hand. So if you raise your hand, then at some point, then I will invite you to unmute so you can ask a question. Mm. I love heart. One question I do often get. I'll come to it in a moment. Michelle, if you would like to unmute.
Hi. First of all, thank you for this webinar. It's really nice.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, nothing yet. Maybe you can type your question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. While Michelle's typing her question, a question I often get is this about how when someone feels very activated or very charged by something someone has said or done, especially family, how do they work with that? And often it's an ongoing process through layer by layer by layer of working through your own reactions within yourself, within the own preferences that we have. So often we have a lot of preferences, a lot, this or that. I like that, I don't like that. I like that feeling, but I don't like that feeling. And all of that. And one of my teachers always has said about how like feelings are just like all the musical notes that you can have on the piano. And so you get the dong and you get the ding, you know, you've got the whole range, but until you have the whole range, you can't really have the whole song, whole harmony, a whole piece together. And And that is ultimately is about totality as well. So one of the aspects that Mama Cacao has helped me with, and I have seen her help many, many others with, has been being able to be lovingly present with those feelings, with those reactions when they're arising within the moment, whether it's within a personal practice, whether it's within ritual or within ceremony, that it just builds up like that capacity that I mentioned earlier. It builds up that capacity to hold that more. And this especially comes in for the feelings that we find more difficult, as well as actually the feelings that we may really prefer. So, for instance, some of the feelings that we have, like shame or fear, for instance, are like pretty much like the stickiest emotions that we carry, because it can be carried in so many different parts of the body. And it can be related to many parts, not just our physical body, but there's the energetic body, there's the mental body, there's the emotional body, there's many bodies that we have. So it takes time to work through those layers. The other aspect that I have noticed too has been that there's almost like this, especially in these times, but I think it's a very, very, very conditioned within us, is that somehow it's not okay to feel joy. And joy is a state of being, it's not an emotion. Happy is an emotion. Happy is an emotion because happy can come and go. But joy is always that inner state, like bliss. And somehow Mama Cacao also helps us, because she is a love medicine, and she does activate the bliss chemicals, and she activates pleasure as well in the body, that she can help us to become more comfortable with that and open up to our pleasure body a lot more. And the more that we open up to that within ourselves, the more that we can feel comfortable to express that with others as well. And that can be very much down to even how we relate with nature. So, for instance, I will be walking through and walk by a pine tree and just suddenly stop in my tracks by the smell, and just so much enjoyment of the smell that's coming through in that moment, and just being really, really immersed in that. That would have been missed if I didn't allow myself that moment to take it in. It just whizzed on past. It's like, that's a nice smell, and carried on, but actually really take it in. And then likewise, if it's shame, if it's fear, wow, can I really be with this right now? Wow, can I befriend this in this moment? And the more that I build that capacity to befriend this, to love it in that moment, the more than it comes up in another, the more I have capacity for that it doesn't stick to me as much, because I've got less of the stickiness. I call it, sometimes it's like Velcro. You know, we have this Velcro of these wounding maybe that we have, and these reactions that we have, because we're carrying so much in terms of our own processed emotions. The more that we work with that, the less Velcro we're carrying, and then there's less chance of it sticking to us from other people. So it's an ongoing practice, like I say, and with some people, some situations we will find easier than others. But again, ultimately, it comes down to that compassion, that love for ourselves radiates out to others, and we build that capacity over time. And we're human. We don't manage it all the time. So it's also being gentle with ourselves, going, okay, I did it again. All right. let's continue. Let's keep trying for next time, eh? And another day, like, especially for women, eh? We're different points of the moon cycle, all sorts is going on. You know, we are cyclical beings. Nothing is linear in this human experience. So I'll just check in with Michelle's question. Oh, thank you. It's really lovely to share this as well. Thank you, Michelle. Yes. So if you're really interested in the practitioner training, then yes, the level 1 is included as part of the practitioner training. So you'll be able to join the level 1 at the 12th or on your own time, and then you can join the practitioner training in February as well. So they're both very much included, and it's really ideal if you can do both live, and then you get the full benefit, but you can, like I say, also work through it in your own timing. Now, in terms of certification, there is some homework and assignments to do with the practitioner level, but it's really an extension of your own self-inquiry. And it's more really applying what we're practicing through the self-inquiry. The certification, I'll be very honest, I don't really rate certificates and all that. My focus is with the relationship with the plant medicine. I think this is something that we have forgotten, quite frankly, in society, that the first and foremost is relationship with Mother Earth. And if we are sharing with a plant medicine, for me, that's the same as having a facilitator, a co-facilitator on board. And really, it's about getting to know them and getting to know them through our own practice first and foremost, and building our own relationship with them first and foremost before we share with others. So the courses are very much designed for that. And in fact, they're actually far more comprehensive than a lot of other courses that I know that are connected with cacao. And so when you come to certification, yes, you will have everything that you need in order to facilitate ceremonies with others as well. And that certificate, certain insurance companies do recognize cacao, but not all. But I can point you towards the ones that do, and the ones that do accept these certificates as well. So from that point of view, like what I call the 3D insurance point of view, if you want to go down that route, you can. It's totally covered with this. But like I said, most important is that reciprocity with Mama Cacao, with yourself, first and foremost, of taking care of yourself before you're sharing with others, so that you're sharing from that full cup as well. And that would be another webinar at some point, I'm sure, about how to be in service, in devotion, but not at the cost of yourself. In fact, actually putting yourself first is how to be in true reciprocity, and in true service is in serving yourself also. And that's from your passion, that's from your love as well, rather than doing out of sense of duty, or I need to do this for the money, or whatever it may be. Some of the, we're breaking down old systems and old paradigms at the moment. It's fallen around our ears, and within and around. And so this is one of the ways that I see as the antidote. And that's really sharing from that place of like a full heart, a full cup. So I hope that answers your question. Great. And so the level 1 starts on the 12th, and it'll be for 5 weeks. And so there's meditations there's video resources, there's playlists. I'm always finding new playlists and new music all the time, so that it can facilitate some movement. some creativity as well, and there will be live ceremonies as well. And so we'll be sharing 3 live ceremonies for that 5 weeks. And the reason that the timing came in then, and I'm not quite sure, to be quite honest, how much longer I'll be continuing on with cacao, for sure over this round and the next practitioners round, absolutely. But after that, I can't be sure, because my work's always changing and evolving. And so there may or may not be another round in 2022 after the practitioners round in February. I'm not quite sure. I go by, I am of service and what is being asked of me at any particular time. So we'll see. But what it feels like at this particular point is that November can be quite a tough month. And we're in quite hairy times right now, let's face it. And so what I felt was that this is a great time of a container of really going in and being held in that love, and as well as in a very well, certainly in the northern hemisphere, when we're coming into the winter time, where serotonin levels can start to drop because the vitamin D starts to drop and all of that, that the cacao can really give us that top up and that inner warmth as connection as well, and that kind of a bit of sunshine and from the inside, shall we say, as the seasons really starting to shift into winter. But also I'm very aware that November, December, January are going to be quite, like, there's going to be a lot moving, shall we say. There's going to be a lot of noise. And I would really, really suggest, whether you take on this time with Mama Cacao or not, that you really take a time to switch off as much as you can from mainstream media and all those external noises that we don't need, and really, really nurture that connection to source, connection to love for yourself, what you need, and take care of what your needs are primarily, and that connection with Mother Earth. And that will really, really serve you well through this time. And of course, if you have others as well that are of that ilk, shall we say, and certainly we're going to have a group as well, an online community as well with Mama Cacao. So you don't need to just reach out to me with this course, but you'll also have each other. We're switching over to MeWe, so that we can kind of think of a more longer term view of a way of connecting. So that's a social media channel that's been up and running for a number of years now. It's a major one in Hong Kong. And I reckon over the next year or so, it's going to really grow. And there's no ads, it's totally censorship free and all of that. So there'll be a little group there. And then we have resources and a little online portal for you for the cacao alchemy resources. So that's that. And if you have any other questions, feel free to drop me a line, just drop me an email. Quite often I don't really do Facebook messages, so probably email me would be better. It would be lovely to hear from you. I'll send you an email also with the recording as well, so that you've got this if you want to refer to it again, and also for those that couldn't make it. And apologies as well for those that I had put the Zoom on for tomorrow and not today. I hope that at least you can get the recording. And thank you as well for coming along. It's really nice to see you. And it feels like from my little living room to yours, with love. Bye for now.